The idea of having an Athletics World Championships was first mooted 50 years before the first event in Helsinki in 1983. When it finally happened, 154 countries participated. Rome followed in 1987, and then 4 years later, Tokyo presented Great Britain with a stage set for one of the finest athletics displays ever seen. Against all odds, British runners took on the might of the Americans to record a golden moment in the men's 4x400 metres relay. The American men and Russian women dominated track and field, and the event provided a showcase for the world's elite. Carl Lewis broke the 100-metre world record and gave his best ever six-jump series. Yet Mike Powell broke Bob Beamon's long-standing long-jump world record. After 3 bronze and 2 silver medals, the Great Britain team hit gold when Liz McColgan won the 10,000 metres. In the last men's track event, it was a Fab Four that gave Great Britain's men their first gold. Roger Black, Derek Redmond, John Regis and Chris Akabusi winning the relay. They achieved it just 400th of a second in front of the Americans. If you include the heats, 6 athletes represented Great Britain in this relay event, and today we have 3 of them here to share this inspirational story. My first guest, apart from Tokyo, won gold medals in the 1989 World Indoor Championships and the 1990 European Championships. John Regis' most significant successes came in the 200 metres. He was indoor world champion, the first British athlete to run under 20 seconds. He won silver in the 4x100 metres relay at the 1988 Olympic Games. He is, by the way, a cousin of the football players Cyril Regis and Dave Regis. My next guest had a career blighted by injuries, which made this moment so much sweeter to taste. During his career, Derek Redmond held the British record for the 400 metres and won gold medals in the European Championships and the Commonwealth Games. A year after his Tokyo success, Derek competed in the 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona. He tore his hamstring in the 400 metres semi-final, but fought through the pain. With the assistance of his father, he managed to complete a full lap of the track as the crowd gave him a standing ovation. The utmost respect followed by both his fellow athletes and the Olympic movement. My next guest is a rather timid individual and was always a very quiet and retiring sportsman. As a teenager, Chris Akabusi started life with a successful career in the army. In 1983, he embarked upon an athletics career specialising in the 400 metres before switching to the 400 metres hurdles. As a member of the British 4x400 metres relay team, Akabusi won a silver medal at the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. His achievements also included winning gold medal in the hurdles in the 1990 European Championships in Tokyo. He took the baton on the last leg and was in second place behind the new American World 400 metres champion Antonio Pettigrew. Chris accelerated into the lead and in the closing stages was there to win gold for Britain. Gentlemen, welcome.
Way to go, Dan! You won!
It's going to be some programme. So let's start with you, John. Get a little sense here about how you started, because you came from a football family. So how did you start with athletics and not football?
Well, I mean, I really wanted to be a football player because I had trials at Newcastle United, Charlton and Arsenal. And I was always fast. I played up front, always quicker than my opposition. But there was something in me that just said I wanted to become an athlete. I wanted to try athletics. So when I was 18 years of age, I decided to give athletics 1 year. And I went to the European Juniors in Cottbus, East Germany at the time. Never been on a plane. I got my passport in 3 days. You know, turned up in East Germany. I thought, what? You know, this is unbelievable. 100 metres, got a bronze medal, anchored the 4x1 team to gold. And I thought, I'm staying here. This is a lot of fun. I am staying right here.
And who gave you the nickname Two Chests?
Oh, let me have a guess. Let me have a guess. Who would give me... Derek? No, Derek's too nice for that. Roger Black, again, a great person, and he would never do that. And there's left one individual.
Look at the size of that thing!
I think it's Chris Akabusi.
And Chris, was it the army that kick-started you, or what?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. In fact, no army, these guys would have had no medal. I want to get it in early, guys. I want to get it in early. I've got to get it in early. I've got to get it in early. Yeah, I mean, no, certainly, you know, I joined the army, 6.5, snotty-nosed kid, 9 no levels. I wasn't the brightest tool in the bag.
And you're still not. Some things never change.
Yeah, exactly. I've been brought up in the children's home, and when I joined the army, I'd come under the wing and tutelage of a guy called Sergeant Ian Mackenzie. And Sergeant Mackenzie wasn't just a troop NCO, he was also the athletic officer. And he took a shine to me. Of course, I was quite talkative at the time. I know you're really surprised about that. Yeah. And, you know, I'd talk a lot, but he actually got me focused on my training. I could stay at his house on weekends, and every time I run the races in the army, he put my name up on what's called company orders. And like John, I found that quite inspirational, the fact that I was being recognised for doing something well for a change. And that really got me onto thinking that athletics could be a potential career. And so from that moment, going to Germany, find a bona fide coach, then to get to Mike Smith, who was, if you remember Todd Bennett, Donna Hartley, he coached so many phenomenal athletes. Mike Smith was when I made the massive leap to being an army athlete to international.
And Derek, how did it all start for you?
Quite boring compared to these guys. I literally started off from the age of 7. Just used to run and jump all over the house. I think for the first 6 years of my life, I thought my name was Walk, because I thought my mum and dad used to shout out because I'd be running everywhere. And I thought that was my name. And then I competed for my school, primary school and little infant school. And we had a guy come down from the local athletics track to give the prizes out, the little medals, and just said, if you want to come down to the local club, we train here on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I asked mum and dad if I can go down. It was Milton Keynes Athletics Club, and I just went along, had a go at everything, running, jumping, throwing things, and then it didn't take long to work out that I was no good at jumping, throwing things, didn't like the long distance, and I just started off, you know, sprinting, and I just stayed with it, just because I enjoyed it. And it wasn't really till I was about 15, 16, when I started running 400s that I realised, I'm not too bad at this, and it just sort of went on from there, really.
And Chris, the World Championships came along, and you're quite a bit older in athletics terms than these.
Old man.
Yeah. You were involved in the 1983 Helsinki.
Yes, yeah,
the first ones.
Yeah, it was my very first championships. I mean, in '83, I was actually the baggage man. I was doing what Addy Maffey and Mark Richardson did for us in 1991. I ran the first 2 rounds and then handed it over to the big boys to do their bit in the final. I remember going to Finland, Lapina Ranta, all that sort of, and these funky languages and stuff that they're all talking, and realising that here you were on the world stage, being able to ply your trade. Wonderful.
What do you call from a competing point of view individually?
Well, myself, I was just there for the 4x4. What I do remember is Steve Cram. I think he became world champion that year.
He won the 15, didn't he?
He won the 15. It's a big shock, because at the time, you know, Co and Ovette were the golden boys. Cram was just a young junior. I remember him winning that. Ed Moses, won the hurdles. When it comes to us in the 4x4, we were. I think the British 4x4 team were always one of these teams that struggled hard to make finals. But we made finals. And then when we got to a stage where we were making finals, we struggled hard to make the podium, but we made podiums. So that every time we set ourselves an objective, we actually achieved the objective. And I think that was a precursor to something that was going to happen 10 years later on. So, you know, I remember the World Championships has been a moment where I decided, like John said earlier, I want some more of this. I want to work hard. I don't want to be the guy that's substituted in the final. I want to be in that final.
Those are the days of our lives.
Andy Norman, a policeman who got very involved in athletics, what influence did he have on the British scene?
Massive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Why?
Well, he took athletics to use what Chris said earlier on. He took athletics from the back pages, and it became a front page sport. You know, athletics was a minority sport in this country. All of a sudden, it became one of the majority sports. It was on TV. It was glamorous. It was, you know, on prime time. There was every name there. When Andy was involved, when he was involved in an athletics meeting, he didn't just say, well, we'll have Co in that race and we'll get 7 other chumps for him to run against. It would be, we'll get Co in that race, we'll get Cram, we'll get Ovet. Who's the best in America? We'll get him. Who's the best in Germany? We'll get him. And he got everybody together.
He was a matchmaker, wasn't he?
He was
like a Mickey Duff.
He was. He was like a boxing promoter, wasn't he?
Yeah. He put it all together, and he had everything in his head. You know, how much you're going to get paid was in his head. Who was going to be the times were all in his head. And like for me, for example, coming along, you know, I've been watching. There was a guy called Mike Solomon who was like the benchmark in world 400 metre running. He wasn't the best in the world, but if you wanted to be the best in the world, you had to beat him. Mike Solomon could guarantee 45-2, 45-5, technical terms, but a decent range. And now, so you'd benchmark yourself against him. When I first came into this sort of flight of athletics, I was running 46-10, you know, which is about 6-7 metres behind these sort of guys. But throughout the year, I could see myself catching up. Andy did that. Phillips Knights of Athletics, Andy brought those sort of guys in there. But Akabusi, you ain't good enough to fill the telephone box.
Exactly.
For the phone box. Exactly. So, you know, and he would dish you and he'd make you angry and you make you compete against him, you know, and he'd give you a fiver. You had a five, Akabusi. These guys are getting $5,000. You've got a fiver in your pocket.
And you took it, and you were happy with it.
Because you were part and parcel of it.
Absolutely.
So he created this ambience, he created this theatre of dreams, to coin a phrase. He created a place where you wanted to be, he had it all in his head. He was a matchmaker.
I remember I used to, once in a while, first time I got asked to compete, I didn't know who Andy was, and I was running for my club, which was Luton United Athletics Club at the time, and I said, no, I don't want to run in this Grand Prix in London because I'm running for our club, and the club, if we'd won it, we would have gone up to the next, you know, to the next sort of division. So I wanted to represent my club and help them get up, and Andy wasn't happening. He phoned up my old man and said, who's your boy think he is? I've just offered him a race, and my old man, not shy and coming forward, well, who the hell are you? And they had a little bit of a conversation on the phone, and then it worked out that I was able to run in both meetings anyway. And I went along and I got 90 quid. And I was like, oh, I've just been given £90 a race. I've made it. You know, that was it. I couldn't believe it, you know, £90. And then I found out Addy Maffey got 900 quid. Pop goes the bubble.
Just concentrating on the relay for a bit now. I mean, you were starting to form. It didn't just happen in the end, the gold. It was being formed at Commonwealth, European level and World Championship eventually. So you guys are all figuring in this, not always all together, but
coming and going.
So how did that develop?
Well, we had a really good...
Yeah, it was a great camaraderie.
We had a good camaraderie of all the guys, but we also had good strength in depth in 400 at that particular time. You know, you talk about John, you talk about Chris, you talk about Roger, you talk about yourself. You know, you had Mark Richardsons, you had Addy Maffeys, you had Mark Thomases, you had Paul Sanders, you had Paul Harmser. The list goes on of good quality 400 metre runners. So first of all, to make the British squad, you had to be running pretty well, and pretty well for Britain is sub 45.5.
Exactly, sub 45.5. Absolutely.
You know, you've got to be running those sort of times if you want to even think of competing for the British team. There's no guarantees 45.5's going to get you in. And as Christian said, we all got on really well. We all laughed and joked. We all really...
There was two big centres, wasn't there? There was
Birmingham and Southampton.
Yeah. And every now and again you had some roughnecks from London.
No, the talented
come and spoil the party.
One decided to step
come
in.
and spoil the party.
I mean, how were you coping? Because you weren't the same sort of distances as those guys, were you? I mean, Chris,
no, I just
Chris
had more
is doing
talent
400
than those guys.
metres.
That's the problem. I mean, these guys are 400 metre guys that had no speed.
Mickey Mouse.
So, you know, they had to turn on to somebody like me who had a bit of speed to come and bail these guys out. Plain and simple. No, I mean, seriously, I think for me, I was a 200, 400 metre runner, but I didn't like the 400 because it hurts. When you run it and the training you have to do to become world class hurts. And I could run a very good 300 metres. And, you know, I remember...
Did you have a world record for the 300, or is it...
No, I
know what British you're going to go Gateshead, didn't you?
And Derek's not going to like me for this.
Oh.
But I remember there was a 300 metres in Gateshead, and I was racing Derek. And
there was a different reason for that.
I didn't finish the story.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm racing Derek, and I'm thinking, holy man, I'm a 200 metre guy. I got Derek, who at the time I think was British record holder, and I'm thinking, I know Derek was just coming back from injury. And I'm thinking to myself, OK, John, you know, Derek, and I remember Andy said, well, Derek's got the choice of lanes. I'm like, well, just put me in the race somewhere, I don't really mind. So then eventually the gun fires, so I take off. And Derek's outside me, and I'm thinking, what do you do? I said, I'm a speed guy, just take it out. So the first 100, I take it out. And I'm on Derek's shoulder, I come around the turn, I'm still on Derek's shoulder. And in the home straight, I'm thinking, he's going to go past me. And he doesn't, I'm thinking... And then I use my speed, and I cross the line first, and I'm thinking, I just beat Derek Redmond. And to me, I was like, I've just beaten the British champion. I have just beaten the British champion. And from that point on, I always knew that I could run 400s. And I always knew that you know, if ever asked, and at this point, it was one of those things where possibly you may get asked or not. But I think that in itself proved to the hierarchy that if they needed to call on me,
It was there.
It was
Yeah, and I
there.
think to us too, you know,
Yeah.
to us quarter milers,
Absolutely,
you could
yeah.
see, you know, okay, Regis has got some potential. You know what I mean? If he's
Got some potential. Got some potential, Boosie.
okay, he's not too bad.
But there's two types of 200-metre runner. There's 100/200,
Yes.
and then there's 200/400. And he was definitely more of a 2-4 man. And that, going back to that 300, I do remember because when you came on my shoulder, I thought he's had his time now. He's had his line. He's gonna blow in a minute. He's gonna blow. No, he's not. No, he's not. Oh my God, he's there. And he just pulled away. And for me, I thought, you know what, this kid could run a few good fours. And I actually remember thinking, I hope he stays at twos because it's hard enough as it is at fours without another one coming on and giving us hard time. So yeah, definitely, we all knew that John could run a good four. And you ran a couple in European Junior, or one of the Europeans, didn't you run in Split or somewhere? You ran in a 4x4?
I ran a 4x4 in that was the first time they actually asked me to come and compete. And at the time, I just run the 100, the 200, the 4x1, and they said, John, come run the 4x4. And I'm thinking, this ain't going to work, guys. This ain't. But fortunately, I was able. I just got the baton. And one of the things which is great with the British team is when you get asked to run in a 4x4, you raise your game.
Yeah.
Every time the British team will raise its game because we just had that ability and we all believed in each other. We were literally a perfect team.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly raised your game when you got to Tokyo. So let's concentrate now on the 1991 World Championships. A lot of great American athletes there. The Russian women were doing well with some great athletes. Let's deal with your individual events there. First of all, you're picking up medals as well. So let's start with you, Chris. You're in the hurdles.
Yeah, actually, funny, on my way to the studio this morning, I was saying to Derek, there are only a very few times when I can think back in my career and be slightly disappointed. One was when I did a training session. It was a real tough training session, and I bailed out early, and that stayed with me all that day. And I went out and I redid the session the next day. The other day was in the World Championships. I was in the final of the 400 hurdles. I was coming around the last turn, over the 8th hurdle, and I had ahead of me Matete and Winthrop Graham, who were to go on to come first and second. And I was only about 4 yards behind them, and I could feel my momentum. And instead of doing my race, I started thinking, oh my gosh, I can get this guy, Bam! I hit hurdle 9, and as I hit hurdle 9, I was stumbling all over the place, and all I could do was to get myself focused, and I started thinking to myself, oh, just hold on to third. Just hold on to third. And so consequently, I got third. I got the bronze medal in the World Championships in 1991 as a 400-metre hurdler. And that irked me for the rest of that week because I know in my own head that if I'd kept myself focused, if I hadn't been thinking about them but thinking about my job, I believe I had the potential there to be world champion or get silver. But because of my mind of the game. So that really was part and parcel of what took me into this, going into the final, the 4x4, thinking I've got to redeem myself, and I can never ever get that gold medal back for the individual 400. But fortunately, we were to be lucky in the 4x4.
Yeah. Now, but you, John, just picking it up with you, World Championship medal is on the horizon, not as an individual, but in the 4x100 metres where you got the bronze.
Yes. Even going back before that, I was in the 200 metres and I never made the final. And I was absolutely devastated. Because I set my standard when I go to a championship, I have to come back with a medal. And relays are great and I really enjoy them, but I wanted to get my individual medal. And for whatever reason, it just didn't happen on the day. And I was absolutely distraught. And some of these guys could, trying to console me because I'm thinking, hold on, I've come here, I'm in good shape, I was one of the favourites, and I don't even make the final. And then going into the 4x1, that's still playing on my mind. And I run third leg. I hand the baton over to Linford, and we had a very odd exchange. And then Linford, gets bronze medal. But even then, I still didn't think that I performed at the level that I set myself. And I was, there are times in the sport when you would wish you could reel back time and start again. And World Championships, 200 metres in my semi-final, I wish I could. It happened so slowly. I can remember the athletes running past me, and I'm thinking, come on, legs turn, come on. But nothing was happening. There was no response. And I just wish I could go back in time and put that right and, continue with the rest of the story.
But you still had great moments to come. But Derek, what are you doing at this stage?
Oh, it's amazing. You've got 4 athletes, and then Roger's not here, but you've got 4 athletes who approached that final or came to that final on 4 different paths. You've heard from Chris and John. Roger's on a crest of a wave. He's just won a silver medal in the individual, so he's on a high. Me, like John, I didn't even make the final. In fact, I didn't even make the semi-final. It's the first major championships I've gone to and not made the final. I was carrying an injury coming into those World Championships. I'm not in good shape. I'm trying to race myself into shape. A major championship's not the place to try and race yourself into shape. I managed to scrape through the first round. I knew I'm in trouble. It comes to the second round and I ended up getting knocked out and I don't even make the semi-final. And I remember going back to the warm-up track after the race, and my coach, Tony Hadley, not the lead singer of Spandau Ballet, but he has the same name, Tony and Frank Dick were sitting there, and I actually said, I reckon I'm going to go home and leave the relay to the other guys because I'm not in shape and I don't want to go and let the team down. And it was Frank and Tony that convinced me to stay out there and explain that how my training was getting better each day and I'm running better and better. I just need a bit more time. Stay and run the heats. You're good enough to run the heats and you'll qualify for the heats and then see how you feel for the final. So I was actually even worse than John. I didn't have any other event to try and crawl back and redeem myself. So, like John, not making the final, I was absolutely cheesed off. And I'm also cheesed off because I'm not in good shape. And I actually, seriously, wanted to go home. And if it wasn't for Tony and Frank, I would have been on the first plane home and I wouldn't have even run in the heat.
But you did stay on the lineup for the heat. There are 16 teams and we've got 3 heats for the 4x400 metres. It's going to eventually be the last event of the lot. So the lineup was different for the heats than what took place in the final. You had Mark Richardson, A.D. Maffei, Derek Redmond and Chris Akabusi.
Yeah. What I mean, you've got 2 reserves. You're allowed to, 2 guys have to run in the heat and the final. The other 2 can be changed. The obvious was, we know John, as I always say, has got 1 good run in his leg over 400 metres a year.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Roger's just won a silver. He's had 4 hard races, so he needs the rest. We know he's in shape. John, he's got the 4x1. I think you had the heats as well on the same day as we did. Plus, he's got the final. So, you know, John will also leave. So it was an obvious thing to leave those 2 out, bring in the 2 reserves, and Chris and I run. I needed the run because I needed to run myself into shape. So for me, it was a necessity. He's as strong as an ox anyway.
Exactly. My strength was my strength.
Yeah.
I wasn't a speed merchant, so
you know, he could have run 6 rounds and it wouldn't really matter. So the heat was an obvious choice. And to be honest, we expected to win it. We expected to qualify easy, but we actually ran 2:59. We broke 3 minutes. And the 3-minute barrier was the Holy Grail. And at the time, there was only Britain at their best and America who had ever run under 3 minutes.
Those are the days of our lives.
It was the fastest time in the heats, as it proved. And Pettigrew didn't run for the Americans in those heats. Was that because he'd just been in a very hard final with Roger Black?
So.
That was close, wasn't it, with Black and him?
Yeah, he's like Roger and John, they were saving their best till last. You know, so it made sense that Pettigrew didn't step up there. The highlight for us was that Michael Johnson had been sent home. You know, there's a lot of banter around this 4x4. You know, and I wish I could remember his name, but even some of their coaches were really jibing us. You know,
saying they could win even without Michael.
We're going to kick your butt, man. And all that sort of, you know, the way they are, the way they do their lyrics and stuff. And so we were giving as good as we get.
A bit brave taking you on.
Yeah. So, you know, we had all this banter going on. So, you know, but for us, sending Michael Johnson home was a massive flip in our step. But they were thinking that, man, we don't need Michael Johnson to whoop these boys, you know. And so there was a lot of tension going into the final. And then when it came round to the final, we decided that AD, who was a 20-metre runner, but not the same calibre as John now, and Mark Richardson were going to be left behind, and we were going to have us 4.
Who decided that?
That was a management decision.
Influenced by you guys?
No.
I think it was an obvious decision. I mean, at the end of the day, you come to the relay final, you want your best chance, so you put your 4 fastest in there. There was no arguments of myself, Chris and Roger, and arguably John was the next quickest. He had done enough to show that actually, although most of it was over 300 metres and his 200 times, this kid had a big run in him. And if you speak to Addy and you speak to Mark, they would have also said, you know what, that's the right choice. So when we were told the 4 was going to be Derek, Chris, John and Roger, nobody was actually surprised that we were the 4. It was an obvious choice.
But Chris, you've got involved the night before, haven't you? You've made a decision that is going to change your futures, all of you. Change your lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so tell us why you did it, how it came about, and everything else with it.
Well, Roger Black and I used to share the same room every time we went away. We're still friends, but...
But they don't do that anymore.
And basically, Roger and I were sharing bunk beds, and he's on top. And, you know,
It was
I'm
a
laying there,
single
in the darkness like this, and I'm saying to Roger, Roger, are you thinking what I'm thinking? He peers out the darkness and says, I hope not, Chris, but you're looking quite cute in your pink pyjamas. But we were thinking, because we spent all night thinking and talking about the 4x4, we've been speaking about it, and what we realised is that the way we'd pick the team, which is a traditional way, was running for second.
Yeah.
But we had an opportunity with these guys, and in particular John,
Yeah.
as a British record over 300, we had an opportunity now to really go for the big G. And this is something that we talked about the development of 4x4. There's a guy called David Jenkins, they're all spoken about, gosh, how can we beat the Americans? How do we close the gap? And so we went to breakfast the next morning, spoke to John and Derek and said, look, guys, this is it. Why don't we put our best man, Roger Black, first leg, second best quarter miler, and world-class quarter miler, Derek Redmond, on a second leg. Johnny two-chest Regis, he's a 200-metre runner, but if you pay me enough money,
He'll go the extra.
Yeah, I'll give you an extra 200. Absolutely. I think it's only fair.
and of course then myself, the old man, on last leg. And we took that to management. We took it to management. Getting to management, there's a sort of semi-intellectual discussion going on when the director of coaching?
Yes.
No.
Don't
say it.
Yeah, the national coach.
What's his nickname? Please.
Well, Frank coached the national. No.
His name was Frank Dick and he was the national coach. He called it Frank Coach National. You can work that out.
Okay, got it.
Sorry, Frank, I like you, really. Yeah, good old boy.
I think no more jobs for Frank. But I've never got any jobs for you anyway, Frank, so it doesn't matter.
So what did he say?
So basically he said, no. When we came with this idea, he was vehemently against the idea. His idea was, look, I'm the coach, I pick the team, I know what I'm doing. And quite clearly, he had the mood of the nation. The nation will expect us, and if you listen to any commentary, even the commentators expect us to run it the traditional way.
The problem was, I think, for Frank, they were playing it safe because they wanted a medal.
Yes.
And we not only wanted a medal, we thought and had the belief we could win.
Yeah.
Now, and we knew if we got it wrong, we'd still end up with silver. So why not go for the gold? Because that's what we're there for.
We'll come on to the actual race in a moment, but just to step into there and say that the reasons you did this didn't actually work out. You won it for another reason, because of the last leg, what happened on the last leg. But the theory that you get such a big lead and the last leg wouldn't matter.
There wasn't a theory of the big lead.
There wasn't?
No. There was two ways that we were going to win that race. Either with a massive lead, which
you
to be
didn't
honest,
get.
was going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
Or the other way was to get Chris 2 or 3 metres behind Pettigrew once he gets the baton. Now that was a much more realistic goal.
Yeah.
So that was what you.
It was like two choices. There was
Now,
two, and that was a more realistic one.
Now, you've got into the start of the race. What about Roger Black? I mean, he'd done so well.
Yeah.
What were you expecting him to achieve on the first leg, and did he achieve what you expected?
Absolutely.
So take us through that first leg.
If you look in history, what you saw typically was on the very first leg, the Americans would get 2 or 3 metres lead. Second leg, another 2 or 3 metres lead. On the third leg, it could be as far as 10, 15 metres clear. Yeah. It doesn't matter how good you were on the last leg.
Yeah,
Roger's never going to catch the world champion on the last leg with a 15-metre deficit.
No chance. Yeah.
So what do you think the Americans were thinking? Because they weren't expecting you to have this line.
No, the Americans were thinking they were going to do what they always do.
Yeah.
Take it out, hit the road jack.
So they weren't bothered about your lineup?
No, they were. And because I can remember going into, when you're standing in the warm-up zone, and before you go into the stadium, they break you up into first leg, second leg, third leg. And they assumed that Derek would be on first, Chris second, I'm third, and Roger on anchor. But when Roger moved to first leg, you could see their eyes thinking, holy moly, what's going on here? Because they thought that Roger is going to run anchor, and he's going to be 20 metres behind, and it's not going to happen. But when Roger moves to first leg, their eyes went...
Andrew Valmont, their Pan American champion.
Yeah.
There's Andrew Valmont, and then Derek went second legs against Quincy Watts. You know, they're like, oh, excuse me, you know, what's going on here? That's not how we thought it was going to happen. I move into third leg against another 200-metre athlete, and then Akabusi on anchor. You could see they were thinking, holy moly, theyese guys know exactly what they're doing.
But they didn't make any moves to change what they were doing.
Too late.
They couldn't do anything about
it. Because the first time they knew about it, I'm moving forward there, girls. I'm not going to punch you, mate. The first time they knew about it was when we go into the box.
Because when we changed our order, we asked for no one. We even asked not even tell anybody in the British team. We wanted to keep it as a bit of a secret. The only people that knew were the 6 athletes and the 2 management that we went to see that day.
Do you think the Americans would have seen that as disrespectful?
No, tactical.
Well,
Why is it disrespectful?
Just tactical. They wouldn't have thought...
No, not dissing them. I think they've been scratching their heads a little bit because, I mean, you got Noel Duffer. You know, even then I was old.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
And I'm a fundamental hurdler. So it's like, OK, we can see what they're doing, but who's going to blow him away? You know, why is he not on the last leg? You know, why is Redmond not on the last leg? And me, with my experience, running the second leg maybe. And also I'm wondering, you know, John, do they really think...
Yeah, because
he was an unknown quantity to them.
They didn't know that I was going to run the third leg. Because I mean, we all 6 of us were all milling around, so they didn't know what was going on. They just thought, Regis is there just to throw a spanner in the works type of thing. And when Mark Richardson and Addy Maffey moved away, I think, Regis, what are you doing there?
But to them, you was an unknown quantity because they didn't know what armoury you had.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it actually confused them, I think, because they didn't. You've got, as Chris put it, old Duffer on last leg. You've got the quickest bloke on first leg. You got this bloke who's quick over 200. We ain't got a clue what he can do over 400. And you got a croc who's always getting injured on the other one. They're thinking we've got a goal here.
I would also say though that their innate arrogance. And at the time they were arrogant because they were good by a country mile. Their innate arrogance would make them think, but whatever they're doing, they ain't good enough.
Because if you remember, they'd never, in the history of the 400-metre relays, they'd never been beaten.
Never been beaten. They've won every championship.
So take us through the first leg. Take us through Roger Black's first leg.
For me, it was great because I had so much faith in all the guys. And, you know, you have in life many plans and they don't all come to fruition. But I saw it unfolding in front of my eyes. And I had a total faith in these guys. And I saw Roger get that baton. I saw him take off down the curve. I saw him go down the back straight. And he's got this great big long
gazelle-like
strike. Boom, crashing the track, taking it all in. I see him coming up the turn. I was thinking, my gosh, we're on for this. This is fantastic. We're doing it. You can tell, with the staggers where everybody else. So, you know, and his head, legs, is flowing. Sexton legs, he used to call him. Don't know why. But old Bambi back, you know, his legs are not giving up. He's still going nice and strong. And I'm really confident. And then you see Derek and they, in the changeover zone, there's a lot of pushing and shoving. And you see Derek, you know, putting his backside out like that and pushing out like that, and you're grabbing the baton. And as I see a swift changeover, and a Derek taking out, and Derek had a very smooth glider's stride. He's going like that, and he cuts in, and Derek really zooms right in quickly.
The shortest route,
just boom!
Because we were in lane 3. And I remember thinking when I got the baton from Roger, I didn't want to, because the thing in a 4x4, it's a visual changeover. 4x1 is a lot more technical. You hand and the hand comes out and you're not looking. But a 4x4, you can judge what speed they're coming in. And I wanted to make sure I didn't waste Roger's last bit of energy. And I took the baton and I thought, just run the first turn, get yourself out of trouble. And then down the back straight, as you're coming in down the back straight at the 200-metre mark, there's a massive screen which is showing what's happening. There's one at each end of the track. And I've come around in lane 3 and I've just literally gone, indicate left. Instead of just like, I've literally turned left and go. And I just remember seeing Quincy Watts behind me, and he's like 6 foot 6'3", 6'4", big old stride. And I'm thinking, right, just stay. And I'm now thinking, we're in the lead. We don't really want to be in the lead. Just keep going.
Why do you want to be in the lead?
Because in a relay, it's nicer to be just behind the leader. You're not making the run, and you're just tucking in, and it's a lot easier.
Unless you are vastly superior
and you can pull
to
away
the athlete, and you know you can blow his nostrils out,
then you're better off,
tucking in.
And then we got round to the 200 mark, and I'm thinking, right, put my kick in now, and I'm trying to concentrate, and then all of a sudden, I could see, first of all, when someone comes past you, you can hear them breathing, and then out the corner of your eye, you see a bit of a hand, and you see a bit of a knee, and then you see, you know that feeling you get, and you can just see them all coming in, and he's come past me like a steam train. I didn't let him pass me. There was nothing I could do. And all I remember thinking is, great, he's in front. Don't let him get away. Don't. And he's thinking, I've got to get back the lead that we normally have. So he's trying to open up a lead. And all I'm thinking is, you can go past me, but you ain't going to get any more on me. And I just remember thinking, stay with him, stay.
So what's
You've got to give him the credit, though. You the credit, though, because the way you come off that turn and you blasted that back straight, and you just look like of old when you used to do a 44.50 just jogging. It was just bosh, took it round the turn. And of course, in that last 100 metres, he's got lactate happening, he's got monkey on his back, he's carrying a fridge. But he was still keeping a rhythm, you know, it's nice and smooth, you know?
And that's all I was thinking. I just remember thinking, no more than 3 metres, 3 metres, 3 metres, stay within 3 metres. And lucky enough, it was, I don't know what it was, a couple of metres, something like that. And I just remember sticking my hand out and just thinking, John, take this back. I'm knackered.
Those are the days of
So now we're into your leg, John. Actually, am I right in saying you didn't actually technically run the 400 metres?
That's a shocker! That is a shocker! That is a shocker!
390 metres, he short-changed me. We had to do all his work. 5 metres there.
Gary, we were friends.
Yeah.
We were friends, Gary!
You was Regis!
Explain it.
Good to see a man who knows his offence.
Anyway, back to your 390. Back to your 390.
Just explain why it was 390.
Well,
before you take us through the leg.
Well, there is a changeover zone of 10 metres before the 400 metre mark, and I would stand right on that 10 metres. If I could stand 11, I'd stand 11, but you'd be disqualified. So I'd stand right on the 10 metres. So Derek is coming in, but by this time, as you can imagine, Derek's legs are going. So I thought if I stand on the 10...
Gone.
OK, gone. So I stand on the 10 metre mark, so I get the baton from Derek, but what I do, I try to make space for him, because as you can imagine, you've got 8 athletes in the line, and to make space for him, you push what from the back, so he comes through and then I can run away. But I make Derek come all the way through, not to the 400 metres, because I've still got another 10 around the turn. So I make him come to about 408, and I just grab the baton from him. And then, the good thing
At the other end.
No, we'll get there in a minute. We'll get there, Akabusi.
Yeah, don't rush it.
So, but I mean, I remember, you know, as individuals, we all were told, you know, Roger's job was not to give them a lead, and Roger did superbly well. Derek's job was to maintain the gap and or give me 10 metres or just give me behind the athlete. And I knew we're not going to get 10 metres in front of the Americans because they're that good. But what Derek did was give me the baton just behind the third leg runner. For me was Danny Everett. And so I said to myself, my job, Chris had already told me, was to either give him 20 metres, which is an absolute impossibility, or just behind his athlete. So when I got the baton, I took off, and I'm behind Danny Everett. Everything, I mean, if he decided to run into the stand, I was following him, because all I was doing was following Danny Everett. If he went like that, I went like that. If he did this, you know, because I just wanted to give Akabusi every chance. Down the back straight, I actually remember I felt really strong, really confident, and I actually pulled out, and I thought, I can go past him here. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking, why do you want to go past him? Chris wants the baton just behind. So I tucked back in and followed him. The last 100 metres really did hurt, because I'm beginning to feel it now. And the extra metres that Akabusi's talking about was that he stood at the 390 mark and I handed him the baton. I was like, job done! Job done!
Can I ask? Again, John needs a little bit. I don't like giving him credit.
No, but this is what I was going to ask you, because you guys, that's your distance, but this lad's 200 metres. I mean, what a fantastic run.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and this is a world championship. This is not Mickey Mouse.
Absolutely. I'm just about to say, you're not talking about getting him to run a 400 or a 4x4 for your club or even for a normal international. We're talking about a world championship final. He didn't even have a chance to test it out in the heat. It was smack bang. This is it, John. Do or die, and he stepped up to the mark.
And sometimes when you're under pressure, your rational faculties can fall apart. Yeah. And so it would have been easy for him to have forgotten what we had told him. Yeah. And so when he was going down the back straight, he could have blown past that guy. Quite easy. He had all the speed rocking his legs. And we know when someone's scared and frightened, they start doing irrational things. But to see him run to orders, to stick on that guy's back, come around the turn, and I was watching him, and I was just not just proud, but I'm very, very confident. My heart is beating. I'm seeing the two chests. I'm seeing this great big flame. As it comes out the turn, you see this big nostril. You see this big chest pumping like that. His arms coming like that. I'm thinking, you got to rescue this fella now.
He's in trouble now.
He's there, because at first it's like that. Also, you go.
And then the arms
I see this. I say, the guy's done his job. Don't leave him hanging now.
Take the baton from me. Take it from me.
But brilliant. So I see John. Now these guys, they've all done their bit. So we've been talking a good storm, and they've all done their bit.
Exactly what we said we were going to do.
Exactly what we said.
Yeah.
They've done.
But the old codger, as you call it,
The old codger.
has now got it, and you are on the final leg, and you are chased just behind the world champion,
Yeah.
the best 400-metre runner in the world, and you've got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, again, an amazing run.
Yeah, but you get confidence in your mates. And they'd set it up. It was all going to plan. They'd all... Because he's racing against a world indoor record holder.
Yeah.
Danny Everett's a world for the 400 metres.
Yeah.
Put that into times. I mean, what sort of times were you doing there? Pretty fast times
Well,
per leg.
Roger was
Roger's
44.6.
Yeah.
On the first leg.
On the standing start, which is very quick.
That's really good.
Very good.
Amazingly.
So
I was 44.1, but I have what's known as a rolling start. So when you cross over the start line, you're
when the
already
clock starts,
moving,
yeah.
and that's when the stock clock. John was 44.3.
Yes.
Again, rolling start as well.
390 yards.
what was your time in the end?
Yeah, what
What
was
was your time, Chris?
Yeah.
Chris, what was your time?
Yeah.
And you had a rolling start.
Yeah.
Well, they blew out the candle, didn't they? But mine was a tactical leg.
Right.
No, Chris,
What was the time?
No.
What was the time?
Tactical slow leg. That's what you've got to put in there.
Mine was a
Slow.
tactical. If it weren't for me, these boys wouldn't have had no dinner. They'd have been sleeping under bridges.
dear.
I've earned you boys money for the last 20 years, boys.
But if it wasn't for us,
so-
we wouldn't put
so
you in that
take us-
position. to
Take
do
us
that.
through this big money earning leg.
So here we are. So I've made weight. I've got the baton from Johnny Tuchel. Fantastic leg. And now I'm running against the world record holder. But I had trained on a regular basis with Roger. And when I trained with Roger, there were many occasions where, I'd taken it out and I'd finished the session stronger than Roger. So I knew that I did, in the right circumstances, have the ability to match with the best in the world, because Roger had only just dipped out. So when I wasn't scared of Pettigrew. I was in a great position. He had to do all the running. I'm an experienced 400 metre running now. I've been running 4x4s for 15 years. World class, well, not world class for maybe 4 or 5 years. But I had 15 years experience of running the 4x4. So I wasn't scared. I remember going around the turn. My adrenaline is flowing. I'm going down the back straight, and because I ran 45.4 in the end. The boys are jibbing me because I only ran 45.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Finally got there.
Thank you.
Finally got there.
Thank you.
45.
Yeah,
45, was it 45.14? I'm not quite sure. But whatever it is, it's quite slow compared to these guys. But I'm going down the back straight, and I'm standing tall and running like, and the adrenaline's flying so much, and I'm actually thinking, you are jogging. Pettigrew, you are jogging. And as Derek said, you've got these great big screens.
Why was he doing that? Why wasn't he not going
I
faster?
think he was doing that because he was so sure that he could just turn it on with 150 to go and pull away.
I think, in a way, maybe disrespect's a too harsh a word. I thought he just thought, listen, I have no respect for Akabusi. I am the world champion. You're a hurdler. How dare you try to race me?
And I was third in the 400 hurdles, by the way, remember? So, I'm not even the best hurdler in the world. And I'd gone to the hurdles.
Only the third best in the world.
I defected to the hurdles because I couldn't make it to quarter miler.
Yeah.
So, he would know that history. So
what's happening now then? He's slowing slightly.
Well, I'm thinking he's coming around the turn, and I just don't think he's taking it serious enough. I think he's thinking, I'll turn on the gas, 150 to go, blow this boy out the water, we'll win the medal, I'll look good. Yeah. But of course, I had other thoughts because I was put then. So going into that second turn, so I looked up that big screen, and as Derek said, you see these guys, the rest of the world is 50 metres behind.
Yeah, Jamaica were way in third place, long way back.
Yeah, they're way back.
It was game over. Yeah.
So I think to myself, okay. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I'm standing tall, running around it. I start to put a little bit of pressure on the curve, on the turn. All of a sudden, he kicks in his turbocharger with 110 metres to go. He comes out the turn. He's doing the high knees like that. Guess what? I put on the turbocharger. I'm doing high knees because I've been saving myself. Yeah. So I'm like this. I'm going, and guess what? I'm believing all the way that I'm believing I'm going to cane this boy. I'm going to turn it on. 30 minutes to go. all of a sudden, like you said, I hear. the baton has got
It's hollow.
It's hollow,
yeah.
and so it sings. And the higher the pitch, the closer. Oh my gosh! I'm thinking to myself, and like you said, you see the legs, you see, and I'm crossing this. And the last thing is, I stopped believing in myself. You know, I said earlier on about the fun with the hurdles, when you take your eyes off what you're doing. And all of a sudden, from believing what the boys are doing, believing in our tactics, and I thought we could do it, I started hearing the baton. I started seeing the shadows on the track. And it just taking my mind off what I was supposed to be doing. And so I stumbled across the line with it's like, well, 400s?
Yeah.
400s is about that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about an
On a
inch,
cold day.
2
Yeah.
inches, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
On a cold day.
it's not much. So, I mean, we did do it. We said it all out. But, I mean, I nearly lost it for the boys, really, because you say, these guys won fantastic. They won fantastic. And everything was going to plan for 370 yards. OK, and he's 375 yards. 375 yards. And the last 25 yards, you know, the line came at the right time for me.
Yeah.
Because I think he bucked up his ideas.
He came back at you.
Yeah,
when
he
you
did.
went past him, he came back at you.
Yeah, he came back.
Fantastic celebrations. You guys all part.
I was on the infield. I was on the infield. I felt sorry for Chris because I actually didn't look at Chris's leg. I just couldn't see it. And I remember looking at John, and John possibly doesn't know this. I was sort of in the infield, and I looked at John. I could see John looking. I had a quick look. Oh, I couldn't look. And then I was thinking, where are we? And I looked down the home straight, and I looked at John, and all I see is John is going. Do you remember that?
I was on the infield like,
Yeah,
we've done it!
And I looked.
He kicked and shouted, Champion du monde!
Champion du monde!
That's not mushrooms of the world.
So let's finish on the podium because the contrast between the new gold medalists and the silver medalists and their first defeat in this event.
It was. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be in athletics for 15 years, and that was the greatest feeling I've ever had as an athlete. And it was because you trained hard, you came against the odds because you know we're taking on the greatest nation that's ever been in a 4x4. Each of us as an individual stepped up and gave 25%, not 5 or 10, 25% more. We did everything that we could, and we put it all together, and it worked.
Yeah. And you've got to remember, if you look at all of our legs, who we run against, our personal best, every one of them was slower than the guy we were running against. We all had slower personal bests than the American
opposing athlete. Exactly.
So to take that disadvantage and turn it into a 400th of a second advantage was unbelievable. But, you know, going to the medal, I mean, you were giving the Americans a hard time.
We were sledging them, man. We were killing them because they were saying, we're going to kick your butts, we're going to kick your butts. We said, we kick your butt, man. And Andrew Valman, poor Andrew Valman, his face was like...
Oh, fun, wasn't it? But the best thing was, you stand behind your podium, we're standing behind there, and they always do it in reverse order, and they do it in French and in English.
Yeah.
So they go blah, 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 and in third place, a team from Jamaica, and they stand up and they get the medals and all that sort of stuff. And then once they've had their medal and the applause has gone down, they say, in second place, and he's gone, oh, that's you guys! Up you go! And they're just, go on, boys, get up there! And then they go up there and we laugh. And then they said, and, you know, champion du monde, world champions, the team from Great Britain. Like, stay there, guys, that's us!
Well, it was a great fun, great adventure.
Sorry, guy. And then like Roger, because Roger's not like normally a staid individual. He became a black guy. It's called Roger Black. Roger Black. He acted like a black guy. He's cracking his legs. He's flicking his fingers like that. He's just like, you know what I'm saying?
I've never had so many high fives from Roger in my entire life. Unbelievable.
High five.
High five, sir.
You've recalled it in this programme with great style, great humour and a lot of fun. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Well done, guys.
Well done.
Hey! Boosie!
Boosie's card.
Go